35 years ago, Apple released what is, to this day, the world's most perfect computer. And although a 9-inch monochrome display at 512 by 324 ought to be enough for anybody, a company called Radius Inc. thought a little different.
Oh, good Lord.
So today, let's explore this absolutely ludicrous rotating monitor built by a company with a rather unique connection to Apple themselves. So stay tuned. And if you enjoy watching some guy tinker with unusual e-waste, I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel. It's no secret that the 1989 Macintosh SE 30 is one of my all-time favorite computers. It was the ultimate expression of the original Macintosh, sharing the form factor and 1-bit monochrome display of its 1984 progenitor, while also being extremely expandable, something we've gone to great lengths to test on this channel. But this is a nearly stock SE30. All I've done is bump up the RAM to 64 megs and installed a Blue SCSI V2 to boot from. And I think this is the perfect machine to test an incredible donation that a viewer made to the channel. A Radius pivot display along with the video card and connector required for the SE30. And there's an interesting story here. You see, Radius Inc. was actually founded by a bunch of the original Macintosh team who left Apple, including Burrell Smith. What Steve Wozniak was to the Apple II, Burrell Smith was to the Macintosh. So maybe I'm being a bit melodramatic, but I feel like installing an incredible piece of tech that he helped develop into another incredible piece of tech that wouldn't exist without him is kind of fitting. So to get this ludicrous pivoting display working with our SE30, we're going to have to install this special video card first, along with the matching and very nice video out bracket. But before we do that, I want to take a closer look at what's on this card. Right after this quick word about today's sponsor, Charge. This is the SharGeek 170, which is, well, way more than just a cool looking power bank. It has an impressive 24,000 milliamp hour capacity, 140 watt max input, and 170 watt max output with PDS 3.1 fast charging, which is really good and can charge my MacBook Pro no problem. And while we're at it, we can charge my ThinkPad X1 Carbon at the same time. But wait, it can fast charge 3 devices at once. 24,000 milliamp hours is more than enough to keep all 3 of these charged. But what really sets this SharGeek 170 apart is the smart display and controller inside. The SharGeek shows things like state of charge, output, and most interestingly, input. I've been running around the lab testing various USB ports using the SharGeek to see how much power they're actually delivering. Look how low the output is from my $79 laptop. I carry a big portable solar charger around in the Cherokee, and this SharGeek 170 can show me how much power it's making, so I can reposition it. So yeah, I love this SharGeek. And this tiny adorable little thing is actually the Retro 67 charger, which can fast charge up to 3 devices with 3 USB-C ports and a max 67 watt output. So yeah, check the links down in my description below, and thank you Charge for sponsoring today's video. Looking at this card more closely, it's actually quite special. These goofy tall chips here, these are actually 256K VRAMs, and we are fully populated. The reason that that is important, this is actually the Radius color pivot. Not all of these cards were color, but this one should support 256 colors on the external display. So let's pop this into the SE30, install the software, hopefully from the original disk, and see what this can do. So going through these lovely manuals, I'm actually not sure if I'm supposed to install the disk first or install the card first. I'm kind of leaning towards you're supposed to install the card first, but let's pop in the disk and see what happens. Alright, reads the disk just fine. So let's go ahead and install. Well, that was fast. All right. So the expansion slot is actually hiding right in here, and there's metal chassis all around it, which is why the card is shaped like this to fit right around all that stuff. It's actually kind of a tight fit with those vertical memory chips. And I don't actually have the hardware that's supposed to screw this solidly into place, so I'm just going to use some random screws and nuts. That's not going anywhere. Oh yeah, just look how freaking cool that looks. Awesome. Now, interestingly, the back of this monitor has a VGA input, while the Radius card itself has the old Macintosh DB15. This is definitely meant for Mac because right on the back here it says compatible with Macintosh 2CI and 2SI built-in video. So I guess we're just meant to use one of these deals, which is no big deal. All right, well, everything is connected, and you know, I've actually never tried to power this monitor on before, so moment of truth, I suppose. CRT initialized, let's power up the SE30. All right, it does say Radius. Can play with the brightness and contrast. Yeah, in the monitor's control panel here, it does see the second monitor. And if I double click it, yeah, it says Radius. All right, I just realized it is sort of working. Look, there's the cursor. It's just not quite the right resolution. Okay, well apparently I should have installed the software after the card was installed because now it sees the pivot display and it is installing additional stuff. So, all right. Okay, now something else has gone strange. The font on the menu bar has become enormous. Huh. Okay, after quite a lot of trial and error, I have made some progress. So the video connector on the back of the Radius is not technically VGA. A few of the pins are also used to send signals to the Radius pivot card that the monitor is rotated. Unfortunately, I don't have what probably was a proprietary cable to do that, but through the cunning use of randomly trying all the switches on that little adapter I have, I found that switching that first switch between on and off actually triggers the switching of the monitor's orientation. And it actually works just fine. It's a little annoying to have to go behind the computer to do it, but it's pretty sweet. And dragging windows between the two screens works as you would expect. Very much like a modern multi-monitor system would work. That is pretty sweet. And it really is just a regular extended desktop. We can have one window between the two displays. And here we have 1-bit black and white, and here we have 256 colors of grayscale, and it works reasonably well. Radius also gives us this nifty RadiusWare control panel, which has a couple interesting options like enlarged menu font, which explains the weird enlarged menu I was very confused by earlier. So yeah, pretty excited that we got this all pretty much working, even though I don't have the correct cable. However, I think I want to use this wrong. we're going to install this Supermax SuperView external SCSI video card because I'm pretty sure some of its resolutions can drive the radius pivot monitor in Tate mode, so I think we can have a 3 monitor setup here. Okay, I have the ISO hooked up to the radius video card, the radius monitor hooked up to the SuperView. Now it's going to ask me to choose a resolution for the SuperView, which I'm going to say Apple Portrait, which I think will work. Oh, yes, it does work. The extension startup layout is a little weird. It's probably fine. And just look at that. 3 monitors showing up in the control panel on the SE30. It's just something that's not reasonably possible, except for this super weird combination of obscure parts that we've put together. All right, I'm going to drag these into what I think is my preferred arrangement. There we go. Quick restart here. Okay, so you're probably wondering why on earth I wouldn't use the Radius monitor with the Radius graphics card that's meant for it. And, well, this is why. That Radius video card puts out VGA 256 colors to a standard VGA monitor when you hook one up, and that's what's going on here. And you see I've made this my primary display with the menu bar up top, and oh, there are some graphical glitches going on. And I wouldn't be able to make this my primary display if it was hooked up to the SuperView, because this SCSI graphics card is super slow, and also it will crash if you try to do that. Which meant the only way I could use this screen was to hook it up to the SuperView, which is actually just fine because my primary use case for this display hopefully will be writing code and text and stuff, which the SCSI graphics card is more than capable of, even though it's slow, and the display inside the SE30 can be used for, well, like having an IRC chat window open or something. Unfortunately, there are a few problems. For one, the monitor's control panel here in macOS 8.1 is a little bit delusional and has no idea what orientation and arrangement the screens are actually in, because the Mac SE30's display is over here and the mouse leaves over there, but the monitor's control panel thinks it's above this display, which it certainly is not. Further, the portrait mode display, it says, is on the right, but I cannot escape my mouse over there. Instead, I have to go down, which brings me into the top of the portrait mode display. So yeah, totally functional, yet slightly hilariously borked, which is just the way we like it around here. Unfortunately, there are, well, a few more serious issues. As you might have just noticed, screen redraw is not the best. If I try to open these menus, well, they get a little wonky. They still mostly work, but screen redraw, well, is just not quite there. And furthermore, well, I'd love to be able to play Wolfenstein 3D or Doom in color on this center display, but oh lord, we're gonna try, and I don't think it's gonna go well. And I have Wolfen Zoom installed, so that looks a little weird, but I think it's Wolfen Zoom doing that. Oh boy, that is a bit slow. But actually a little better than I expected. I don't think that the SE30's 16 megahertz processor is entirely happy with what's going on here. But it's giving a valiant effort. Which brings me to, well, something I think is very exciting. I would really love to build this whole nonsense into the ultimate SE30 68K development environment, because I have this weird pipe dream of building a video game or something for classic Macs, whether it's in HyperCard or learning ThinkC or something. I think that would be a lot of fun. And doing it on an SE30 like this where I have kind of the best of all worlds might be really helpful because I can test it on a classic compact Mac screen, I can see it in color, and I can write code on this beautiful Tate mode portrait display. The only issue is speed, and I actually have something coming to me in the mail right now, which I believe should make this blazing fast and may just solve some of these ridiculous issues. So I love this weird, wonderful, wacky display, but more importantly, I love the wacky options that it opens up for running a multi-screen Mac SE30 setup, which is just out of this world and something that would be pretty unbelievable if you saw it back when the Mac SE30 was new. And again, thank you so much, kind viewer who donated this to the channel and the matching card and the very cool documentation. I am so grateful because this thing is awesome. But now it's time for me to go set up a corner of my basement as a classic Mac development environment and hopefully not break my back in the process. So if you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more weird e-waste adventures like this, please subscribe down below, and thank you very much for watching. And a special thanks to Graham, Drew Hamlin, James Laurie, George Rosansky, Jesse Azell, Matthew Crowell, April White, James Fryman, Andrew Nicholson, Scott Cedarbaum, Frodo Jedi, Lyle Truid, Unknown Soldier 41, Tom Woodfin, Alex Hoffman, Veronica Explains, Paul Spencer, Control-Alt-Reese, Ryan, Chris Biggs, Jason Papaz, Scott Thompson, Camel Rakowski, Chris Nelson, Greg from K Mods, Chris Calderon, and Gaspar Heller, who are my highest tiered patrons and all of my Patreon supporters for helping to make these videos possible.